When Christelle Tauter from Belleville in the Western Cape was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, or MS, in 2000, she was devastated.
I was like, I'm only 29, so what does this mean for the rest of my life? And I started crying. I think the immediate reaction of many people who get diagnosed with MS is, I'm going to be in a wheelchair.
It started with an episode of optic neuritis, inflammation of the optic nerve, and often one of the first symptoms people with MS experience.
If I looked at your face, I could see your hair and your chin. I couldn't see the middle part. It was like greyed out.
The condition was temporary and the progression of MS slowed down. Then, 2 years later, she suddenly began to experience pins and needles in her fingers.
Until about 2008, I was still the girl on the dance floor at the wedding. I then started feeling quite weak in the way that I walked. Slowly it happened. It's weird, you just can't walk anymore.
Over time, Christelle began losing her independence, struggling to take care of herself. When her partner is away on business, she's dependent on friends or neighbors.
For example, when I transfer from the wheelchair to the bed and I fall down on the floor, there's no way I can get up. I phoned my neighbor before and I said, can you come and do the electricity reading? And then while you do that, can you come pick me up off the floor?
For Werner Hammann, a young lawyer from Pretoria, the first signs of multiple sclerosis came without warning when he was cycling in 2014.
My left leg didn't want to work. I tried to step on the bicycle pedals and it just didn't want to go around, and I slipped every time it slipped.
Werner was a very active person, and for him, MS progressed much faster, especially within the last 2 years, and within months he had trouble walking.
It just went from normal to bad to worse.
The central nervous system links everything the body does, and the specific symptoms that appear with MS depend on which part of the central nervous system has been affected and the job of that particular damaged nerve. That is why MS is different for everyone. MS has perplexed medical experts for decades because the cause is unknown and the disease incurable. Now, scientifically proven hematopoietic stem cell transplantation, or HSCT, that's been used for decades in the treatment of certain types of leukemia, is helping to halt the deterioration of the disease.
There are different types of stem cell transplant, and the only one that works at the moment for multiple sclerosis to modify the disease is hematopoietic stem cell transplant.
Dr. Dian Opperman, a neurologist from Cape Town, explains that MS is an autoimmune disorder where your own body attacks the central nervous system.
And what we're doing there is basically we're rebooting your immune system.
As an autoimmune disease, MS can have a devastating impact on how the central nervous system functions.
Your own body attacks your brain, basically. It attacks the myelin in the central nervous system, the brain and spinal cord.
Myelin sheaths are sleeves of fatty tissue that protect your nerve cells. These cells are part of your central nervous system, which carries messages back and forth between your brain and the rest of your body.
You have a nerve cell with an axon, and the axon is covered in myelin, kind of like a telecom cable with a copper wire and an insulator. So basically what happens when you have an attack, you lose your insulator, the myelin comes off, and that's why the patients have symptoms.
So what happens when there's no myelin?
It shorts out, like it would in a wire. So basically the message comes to a point and it cannot go through, because the myelin is there for the impulses to communicate from one axon to another.
This is what a normal brain scan should look like, and these are the damaged areas in the brain of an MS patient. There are roughly two main groups of MS: primary progressive MS, or PPM, and relapsing remitting MS, or RRM. In PPM, the progress of the disease is slow and consistent without any improvement. In RRM, a major incident can occur that might show improvement over time but could later progress. Currently, they are managed completely differently.
At the moment in South Africa, we only have treatment options for relapsing remitting multiple sclerosis. We put them on drugs, we monitor them clinically, we monitor them with MRIs and make sure that there's no new inflammatory disease going on.
That is until HSCT became an option for some patients. Dr. David Britton is one of the few hematologists in South Africa that performs HSCT for MS. The unit is located at Netcare Pretoria East Hospital. In all sections, staff apply strict infection control because they work with immunosuppressed patients.
We reinfuse a naive immune system, so it's like a baby's immune system. It doesn't recognize the body's self, and in this case the myelin sheath of the nerves, as foreign and doesn't attack it anymore.
The first step in the treatment is an immunosuppressive chemotherapy. It destroys the immune system but also stimulates the release of bone marrow stem cells into the blood for harvesting in a process called apheresis.
It's essentially a computerized centrifuge or a milk creamer, and we take the cream off a person's blood by circulating it through the centrifuge and sipping off the layer with the stem cells in and returning the rest of the blood to the patient.
The stem cells are frozen and stored at -195 degrees. The patient is then given a second conditioning regimen of chemotherapy that kills the immune system completely.
But that chemotherapy at the same time kills the person's bone marrow, and you need the bone marrow to make your blood cells. So then we infuse the stem cells that we previously harvested, and they grow and make the blood again, but also a new immune system.
It makes me very excited. It is a procedure that we've now seen works.
Non Smit is the director of MS South Africa in the Western Cape, a movement that informs, supports and empowers people with MS. This support is crucial because MS not only affects the person with the disease.
You need a team. It affects the family, it affects your mind, it affects you cognitively, it affects you get depression.
To be faced with a disease that isn't being controlled and that is slowly stealing who you are, both physically and mentally, is very depressing. And to have some hope is very encouraging. And that's what we would like to do, is to give those patients some hope.
Christelle had her HSCT in 2015 and is optimistic that the deterioration of her disease was halted. But after 18 years, the damage to the nerves themselves means that Christelle will remain in a wheelchair.
It's stabilized, so nothing ever became worse. But it stayed where it was at. I can't walk. The message doesn't get to my legs.
Werner had his HSCT only 4 weeks ago and is already feeling some improvement.
There's things that I can do. I can stand in the shower with my eyes closed and washing my hair and my face without any problems.
In people who have more recent onset and have active disease, it will halt the progress of the disease, and in a significant proportion of people reverse it.
In December, Werner will be getting married and he's adamant about one thing. So tell us about walking down the aisle. Is that going to happen with or without the crutch?
I'm going to walk without the crutch.